Greetings, Earthlings. This is Tamara, Zenobia, psychic medium, missing person, and paranormal investigator, coming to you here in Anchorage, Alaska, to report on the encounter that I had with Brian Stephen Smith, a convicted serial killer. So I wanted to take my time to prepare this. I thought it was just a quick little simple video, but I came to realize immediately after this moment, there's so much more going on here to this whole process. But I did make a quick video, and then I had to edit the video. And during the editing, I said, nah, I'm missing something. And then that was Saturday. That was Friday evening, actually. Saturday, I was busy all day. And then Sunday, I woke up and it was like all my eyes were open. God revealed my purpose in this process, revealed what this encounter was really and truly about, and so many other hidden things that I wasn't able to feel or see or experience for the reason of protection. See, when people ask for protection, they don't really know what they're asking for, but I'm going to talk about that in the end of the video when I do my briefing of the experience that I had, right? But anyways, let me start from the beginning. I have notes, see? So I can not ramble on and just have this nice process, So here it is. I've upgraded this particular story from just missing person to missing person and paranormal because some things have been revealed to me about the persons of this case, and not just the victims. I'm talking about partners. Let's see. Let's start with Cassandra. I want to share some information with you about Cassandra, this case, and how all these things have revealed themselves and come through, so that you have this background information. Cassandra Boskofsky was a native Alaskan woman from Uzinki and Old Harbor, and that is just a little town on the end of Kodiak Island here in Alaska. She was the mother of 7. She was known by her family to have this resilience and love for her family, even though she experienced so many hardships and so many things happening in her life. Her family last had contact with her on August 2019, and she was reported missing later that month. Brian Stephen Smith is a South African immigrant and U.S. citizen by marriage to a Stephanie Bisland of Alaska, who worked for the Department of Immigration and Naturalization. Brian Smith was convicted in 2024 for the murders of 2 Alaska Native women, Kathleen Jo Henry and Veronica Abuchek. Now, Brian Smith documented his crimes with photos and videos that were recovered from his cell phone by the authorities. And among the images was a 3rd woman whom was later identified by Cassandra's family as her. Cassandra was later identified as one of the victims of Brian Stephen Smith. Now, I want to just take a second, because I'm reading from my notes, because I don't want to ramble and get off track. I don't want this video to be 3 hours long. But in the videos, in the interrogation, you can hear him speaking about his social media and his followers and his viewers, right? So as a person, as an investigator, as someone collecting data and evidence and scrutinizing it, because I'm looking at everything and I'm listening to everything, right? Like, he had a channel which he was exposing these murders via the dark web on the snuff circuit or whatever that is. I think that's the word for it. But yes, that is true. I know this is true, right? But anyways, back on track. Despite the family's identification, the Anchorage Police Department did not actually officially confirm Cassandra's identity, citing that there was a lack of definitive evidence. So it wasn't until July of 2024 the family was shown the photos, leading them to file a presumptive death position. Now, by this time, Brian had already been convicted of the other 2 murders, right? And they just left Cassandra off the list, even though she was amongst the photos. She should be included. She should have even been included in the crime as Jane Doe. Even if they didn't know, then all they would have had to do was just add her name. But this, I don't understand the logic or the reason of that. In September 2024, a jury declared Cassandra deceased by homicide, providing some closure for her family. So that's, I'm just reading off these things because I want you guys to be informed about how all this is happening. Sorry, I'm shaking the camera. Okay, back on track. So, how did I become involved in this case? Well, as I said earlier, the family member contacted me after the MMIP walk, and I connected with people there to share them my information and say, I can help find your people, through my methods, psychic medium channel. So after some text messaging and actual conversation, as I already had said earlier, we began processing this case. And here's something that I didn't put in my notes, but I remembered because it's a very important detail of this whole thing. When it comes to the paranormal, when it comes to spiritual things, when it comes to God showing up and showing out about proof. So I told you that I had channeled, and then a couple of days later I spoke to the family member, and then after we got off the phone, she said, yeah, and somebody else just went and looked on Google Maps, and on the roof of the home of the serial killer, the victims are crying out from the roof of the house. The people who were killed there. There is the image of a woman who looks Native American in the roof of the house. Like, how? Right? And several others. So that was, to me, a sign. Here I am channeling. Oh, she's in the basement. And bam. After that, you see these images proving what I said. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about my investigation. Okay, so yeah, we saw the images in the roof of the house, which was wild. And I'm sitting there going, okay, if this is, I'm getting chills, right? Like talking about that with her at that time. And I'm thinking, okay, so this adds further evidence to, what I just heard, right? This is not, I'm not hearing things. So then I look up more information and I find out about this character, Ian Calhoun, who people suspect that he is a partner to these crimes. And I go on a goose chase looking up information about him and property records, everything, just looking up, researching, trying to tie things together. But I don't know how to explain when you're doing this work, spirit guides you. And I was not guided to look in that man's direction. I was not guided to talk about him or to research him. I was guided in a completely different direction. And you guys, look, let me tell you something. For reasons that I cannot explain, I can't talk about that part. Ian Calhoun is not the only partner in this case. There is another partner. He did get a fine for withholding the fact that he saw a dead body and that he didn't report it, even if he thought it was a mannequin, and it was not, and he knew that. And there are text messages saying that telling him this, but there's something else going on here. I'm here to find Cassandra's body, and that's what this video is made for, and it's going to do its job. So I phoned the detective. I gave him the information. I said, this is where I believe her body is, and you guys, you really should check that out. And he said he can't go there. He has to have probable cause. And so I was like, okay, how do we get probable cause? And at that particular time, I hadn't put all the facts together. I hadn't put everything together. So I was really hounding on this other party, thinking they're going to be the ones, I have to find a way to get that bean spilled, right? So then I talked to my family contact, and we say we need to go, or she said we should go talk to Brian. I said, okay. And then I was thinking we should do an interview, and record this on video and everything. Well, long story short, I call the facility and the correction facility, and they say, no, you can't do that. You have to be a doctor or a lawyer, whatever, yada, yada, yada. I said, okay. And then I gave them a date and said, hey, I'm planning on coming on Sunday just to visit. Because you can do it by visiting, just show up and visit, or you can do it by making an appointment and seeing him like in person, like with no glass. And this other visit is with glass. So between us, right? So I was like, yeah, so I'll just do that, because I thought that's what you should do, even though they said show up. I'm trying to be very thorough and professional. And I emailed to make sure that I had everything I needed and I was ready to go and make this, to just show up. Then something happened. Energetically, I was feeling like, I don't know. And I had an encounter with someone on the phone that made me think, what? I don't know, it made me feel uneasy. So I said to my family contact, I know I said Sunday because I had already texted her and said we're going to go on Sunday, but I said, let's go on Friday, first thing in the morning. This was Thursday. She said, okay, great. I'm ready. I'm down. So, boof, we bounced up at 8 o'clock in the morning and got there and signed in, and we spoke to this guy, Brian Stephen Smith. And our thinking was that, most of these visits, if not all, have been three-dimensional, meaning in this world, no medium, no psychic, no like looking beyond what we know psychologically and all these different things. But I thought, hey, if I'm channeling and I bring up things that actually happened via my contact with Cassandra, he may just talk. He may just share information about where her body is so that we could at least find her body. Now, I have some experience talking to people like this. I have some experience dealing with these kinds of personalities. In fact, I have some experience, let me tell you. And I watched those interviews, so I had some background info, and I cheated. I used ChatGPT to help me make sure that my questions, would be in alignment with his personality type. So I wrote down my questions in there, and then I asked the AI to analyze them to make sure that they were in line with his personality and all that. And I didn't really think I would need to use them very much. I didn't have very many questions because I thought I might channel most of that, and I wanted to make room for intuitive response and intuitive questioning. So I had printed my little notes, and I watched the interviews again. Guys, all I'm going to say right here is that more information came up in watching these interviews that led me to understand more about this case and what is actually happening. Okay, so the morning of the interview, just gonna skip right ahead. We got there, and I prepared myself. I had been spiritually preparing myself all week. We did a little sage burning in the morning, just to cleanse our energies and just said a little prayer. We got there early. We sat, we talked, and then they brought him out, and he sat down, and they brought us into this tiny little room where, they closed the door behind us. It was a very tight squeeze. We entered the sitting area on the opposite side of the glass of Mr. Smith, and he appeared pleasant and upbeat. Yes, pleasant and upbeat. No frowning, no anger, no nothing, right? It was like we were meeting for morning coffee or tea. And, I got quick and straight to the point. And as I said, I can't explain. I had spent all weekend trying to work this out in my body and my mind, why I felt so clear, not touched by the energy, by the darkness, by any of it. I didn't feel the scum, the slime. I didn't feel any of that. I walked in there like, okay. In my body, I didn't feel, how when you're about to do something dangerous, or you're talking to someone who, like even a police officer. And if you're afraid of police officers, you're like, I didn't feel anything. I sat down, pulled out my little question sheet, and, I immediately addressed what the purpose of the visit was for. I said, hi, my name is Tamara Zenobia. I'm a psychic medium, and we want to talk to you about the possibility of finding Cassandra's remains. We hope that you might tell us where she is. Guys, the first thing he said was, oh, I don't know who she is. I don't know who that is. And my response was, okay, so wait, she's on the SD cartridge that they put in the courtroom. It's why you're here, in fact, is because of all the evidence on the SD card with your pictures and you in videos standing over your victims, talking, and and he was like, oh yeah, that wasn't me. Actually, those were false confessions. That's what happened. The very first things that was the first interaction between us. And then I was like, okay, well, here we go. And I prepared my mind for the maze, the mental maze that he was about to take us on. And like I said, I wasn't moved to anger or frustration because I was like, oh, it's going to be like this. So I had to, you have to listen to your body, listen to your mind, listen to the spirit, what to say next, what questions to ask next. But at that point, I already knew that either we were going to have to go back and back and back to prime him, to get him to where we needed him to be, or we were just not going to get it that day. I had already felt that after that encounter. I said, oh, this isn't going to be, and I said, well, let's channel, let's listen to Cassandra. So I listened to him, and he said, after going back and forth for a minute about the reason why he said that he wasn't guilty, and how this was all, somebody took that SD cartridge and they made all this stuff up, right? They took the cartridge and they doctored it. They did some kind of computer manipulation so that the document, so that the cartridge was not him. They put him in there, but it wasn't him to begin with. So I was like, oh, okay. I heard myself going, you don't say, just kind of like, okay, so many times. And it was so loud that I noticed it my own self. So anyhow, he said, I think within 15 to 20 minutes, I can't exactly remember how long, but it was about 15 to 20 minutes, he finally started saying, wait a minute, actually, I think it might be this woman. She was kind of my friend, where we would, I had some of the girls, they would go and steal electronics from people, so like cell phones and things like that, and then they would bring them back to me, and then I would sell them. So, and he said he would go to the different homeless camps and he would do this. And then immediately after that, so I said, oh, so you were visiting the homeless camps? And he said, no, I never went to any homeless camps. And I was like, and I looked at my family contract and I said, did he just say that? And she said, and I was like, okay. And I just looked at him and I said, so you never went to any homeless camps? He said, okay. So I said, moving on. I'm not going to dwell on that. We got to move forward. We only got an hour. And I said that to him so many times. We've only got an hour, so I'm just going to prime you along here because I want to get as much as possible to what we're trying to accomplish here today, which is to find Cassandra's remains. And then, then we got lost. I heard some things from Cassandra, something about a dress and a van, right? And so I was like, a dress? So I was trying to piece it together. He was trying to make her wear a dress. And he got the clothing from a van in one of the camps, which was what made me ask, so you were visiting the homeless camps? Because I was like, oh, I saw the van and I said, oh, he got the dress from the van, and then he tried to make her wear it. But I couldn't understand for the life of me why he was trying to do that. So, your mind, when you hear things, your mind goes and tries to piece the puzzle together. And I was even thinking he took her to the house or what. I don't, all many things. And then a couple of days later, it was that I realized that, yes, of course he would do that if he's given his disposition. See, one of the victims, Veronica Abuchek, he took her to his house and he asked her to go take a shower. And she would not take a shower because he said she stank. And he was intending to sleep with her, and he wanted to get her ready or whatever, I guess. And she refused to take a shower. So he shot her in the head. That's it. Just shot her in the head. And they only found her head. I think it was, now I can't remember if it was her head or Kathleen's whole. It was Veronica's head they found. Where's the rest of her body, right? So then I said, that's why he said that him and supposedly this friend, which may or may not be Cassandra, were laughing, and she was really drunk and he was drunk, and she was so drunk that she had to go to the bathroom, and then when she went, she fell down and peeing on herself and puking, and she was laughing. And so I said, that's why he wanted her to put on a dress. He wanted to clean her up at the shower, maybe in his house, and have her, be ready for whatever, But he's sticking with this story because he's mentioned it over and over in some of the online things that I've seen and this talk that we had today. He's sticking with that. So, but the van and the dress are very much a part of this whole thing. Anyhow, from her, she said, ask him about the dress, ask him about the van. And I did. And he was like, I don't know, because he still could not say that he knew Cassandra at all, right? Just that there was this friend and that he would sometimes see her and they would go and steal electronics and things for him and that. And then he would get lost and start telling stories. Okay, so you have to know about this. And he would start explaining all these things that I didn't want to know about. And we would just go round and round, and which I expected, right? I knew that he would do that. That's why I had the questions the way that I had them. So I just did my best to ask questions that came up intuitively. Okay, so what about this? So what about that? And we got pretty much nowhere, And there was another question that I can't say on here, because it's a very important question. But the question got me an invitation, got me some homework from him, and an invitation to come back, right? Like, go check this out, go look on this document, and then when you see it, come back and show it to me, and I'll tell you everything, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay, And anyways, he was in the process of explaining something, which had nothing to do with what we were there for. And then our time was up. It was time to go. And he said goodbye, and he waved to the family contact because he's seen her before and he's had contact with her before. This man has murdered her family member, her beloved, close, like a sister family member. And he's waving at her like, hey girl, I'll see you next time. It was good to see you. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, really? In my head, I was like, did you just do that? And her face, the entire time, really, she was just kind of like in shock, like, I can't believe it, as she listened to him. And I think also because the entire time he denied that he committed those crimes. And I kept asking, so wait a minute, but everything is on tape, everything is on video. And he was trying to explain how that all that was false. And then he started mentioning names. You need to go talk to this person. You need to go talk to that person. And I was like, so guys, I'm gonna move on to this next segment. Okay, so I left there that day. I had a brief meeting with my family contact and her contact, and we just talked about what was happened in that room. And then I dropped her off at home, and then I went home, and then I spent the rest of the afternoon just going, I talked to a serial killer. I talked to the serial killer. And in the interview, the thing that I didn't mention, the thing that I forgot to say, which is really, I guess it's good that I'm saving it for now. The entire time that I was talking to Mr. Brian Stephen Smith, I was looking him directly in his eyes, like dead in his eyes. I was staring into his eyes. Why would you do that? Well, for me, it's how I connect, right? Not necessarily with everybody, not even with most people, but I'm talking to a serial killer. So I'm thinking, look into his eyes so you can see him. And as I described it to somebody later, it was like I physically in the room was staring at him, but my spirit person was actually like going in, trying to find something. There was nothing. There was nothing. There was no energy. There was no feelings. There was no emotions. He was void of that human energy that you feel when you look someone in the eye. When you look someone in the eye, it was strange. When you look at people in the eye, you feel things. You feel connection. Somebody's either uncomfortable, so somebody will look away while you're talking, or up or down or whatever. When I'm talking to people, I might start out looking them in the eye, and then I might look away, or, sometimes I don't, really not sure, but you know what I'm talking about. What if it's somebody that you hate, you're looking them in the eye, and they're looking you in the eye, but you're feeling their intensity, you're feeling their emotions, you're feeling their lie, you're feeling their energy. Somehow I felt nothing at all. And I was staring, and I remember saying to myself in my head, you're looking him in the eye. You're staring into his eyes. I could see his pupils. They were big. I could see the colors. I could see, and he was looking at me back into my eyes. Probably thinking the same thing, because I didn't go in there with any of the buildup of energy over the years that the other people have had to deal with. I went in there empty. And I think God, provided that space for me. I think God helped me to get to that place energetically, because I don't think I would have been able to manage that if I hadn't, right? I couldn't understand it all week while I was feeling the way I was feeling. Why am I not scared? I'm like, oh, I'll make an interview. Okay, just do it. Just show it. I was like, okay, sure, no problem. There was no reservation. There was no fear. There was no weirdness at all. I was just like, okay, we're going. And then I talked to him, and I got some revelation about him during the week that let me know what I was dealing with, right? So, and like I said, I have experience with these personality types. So I was staring him in his eyes, just directly, just looking the whole time. I'm asking questions, and I'm looking in his eyes, searching, is there any, and also trying to hear. Sometimes when I do reading, there are people that sit in front of me. I can't hear them, right? I can hear people. I can hear their body. I can hear their sound. I can hear their feelings. And sometimes their thoughts. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I heard nothing, right? And it was weird. I was like trying to process. Why do I just feel so empty? Why do I just feel so like, okay, so there was that. We did that. It's fine. And Sunday came. I had readings all day Saturday, event on Saturday night. So Sunday woke up, it was raining and dreary and dark outside. And I was like, whoa, I feel disgusting. I feel yucky. I feel gross. I felt darkness. I felt all the things. And I saw him. I could see into his mind. I could feel who he was. I could feel the things it was a latent response to my encounter with him. And I was like, whoa. I said, well, okay, I had to sit down. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling a lot of things. What's going on? And I started writing and just grounding myself and just like, channeling in to myself. What is going on here? This is the part of this talk where I'm going to be me. I'm going to be me. This is the site. This is the YouTube channel for Tamara Zenobia, psychic medium, missing person, and paranormal investigator. I'm not normal like normal people. I'm going to talk about the paranormal now. This is what my work is about. This is why people call me. So I'm going to talk about it. That man is an ogre. Ogres they eat people. They hunt them and they eat them. That's what they do. And that's what he is in the spirit. In the spirit world, that's why his eyes are like saucers. They're this big. When you look at him every time, he's like this. Right? His eyes are bulging out of his head. Even when we were there, he was like, he's in a body, but it's not his, right? And he has no, the reason why it's so important when you do this kind of work, you have to know what you're dealing with. You have to understand, or else you will lose your soul. You will lose yourself. You will lose your mind. You have to be, You have to be in a position to understand this world is more than what we think it is, or else you will just go crazy. So I understood that when I was talking to him. I understood where I was sitting and whose eyes I was looking into. I just hadn't had an encounter with that kind of being, or maybe I have and just don't know it, but he's an ogre, and he is a soul eater and a flesh eater, right? His identity is to take, either by physically killing you, murdering you, and doing things, or spiritually. It came to my mind that, that invitation to come back was a setup. It was a trap. I would like to eat upon your flesh, Tamara. Please come back here. Go do this, and I'll give you a little bit more information. Those detectives sat and talked to this man for 7 hours. 7 hours. They did a great job, by the way, because I watched those interrogations, and they managed that. And they've been doing this for a long time, so they were kind of numb. You could tell that they were not fazed by him and his darkness, because they've encountered this kind of being before. But I was sitting there, and I was realizing that he found himself another meal. Well, he was wrong. He was wrong. I'm not another meal, right? People are angry. People in their energy fields. He's holding them, and they don't even know it, because he's getting a double portion. First of all, he killed the women, and God knows how many others here and in the South Africa where he's from. He killed them, and now he's got the energy being sent to him of hatred and anger and rage by the family members and things, right? Like, why did you do this? And they keep coming back. Why? And I need to know, And as he comes, he consumes their souls. He consumes their energy. He consumes their vitality. They're barely living, right? This is why, well, I'm not going to say that right now. And I could see that, right? And he was talking to me now, and then there are dimensions to this, right? Like, I'm a paranormal investigator. If my ego were wrapped up in this, I could say, oh yes, I will definitely come back. And I did say I would come back, because I thought, well, we do want to find her body. Let's get together and answer these questions and do this. But after my revelation today, I said to myself, I can't go back there, because he's a being with high knowledge of how to keep people come back and spin around and around and around in a circle with him for hours, for days and weeks and months and years, interviewing him, and all he's going to tell you is bullshit, right? People don't understand. You can give him something, and he'll give you a tiny bit for the amount of energy and personal human. You got to get for the amount of energy that you give him, he will give you a crumb back of information, cryptic crumb-like information about other people. And it will be something silly, but it's actually, and you'll find other bodies here, and you'll find other bodies there. You won't see it, of course, because you're pissed because you've spent hours talking to this guy and he's not saying anything to you, right? You're writing down things, you're taking notes, you got blogs filled with his discourse, and nothing that you can use. That's on purpose. And he does it so casually. He not even maniacally, not even like, ha ha ha, I've got you, or nothing like that. It's just like you're sitting down with your old friend having tea and afternoon coffee, discussing important things. It's all a game to him. This guy is an ogre. And the more time you spend with him, and now he's in prison, he's got nowhere to go, he's got nothing to do. That is his entertainment. Go back and entertain this man. He's in prison for killing people, now he's taking your soul. he's still getting what he wants, right? And it's not that he's not going to tell me where her body is. But now, because of the other things that are going on in the back, got to be careful here. Because of the other things that are going on, he's not going to tell, because now he's part of the process. And I'm going to leave that there. So, yeah, I saw that, I felt that, and it was like he stared at me, and I stared right back into his darkness, and I said, I see you. Okay? I see you. And because I didn't go into this playing the human game, I went into this playing the game of the being that is there, right? I don't really know how much more I could say about it. That's it, right? That is the sum of my experience and what I felt. Let me look at my notes to make sure I'm not leaving out any important things, because I got all of that. Okay. And to be honest, this is why being a reader, my work in reading is not just to read people, but it's to teach them to do their own inner reading for themselves, to make it through life so that they don't end up food for beings like this. They don't always kill you, they marry you. As is his case, he married someone and that was his food, right? In a sense. Yeah, so my revelation, okay, so this is the end of it. This is the end of it. So this work that I do requires spiritual wisdom and understanding that has taken me. I'm 50 years old, right? All 50 years of my life that I've been alive, I've been learning, and the lessons that I have learned have brought me to this level of understanding about spiritual things. I by no means know it all, or even a large portion of it. I know just enough, right? But you can't do the work and not go out to experience it. You have to do that. My soul eyes can see more than my physical eyes. My heart detects more than what is on the surface. So it's also building trust with your intuition and what you see. Sometimes the facts don't all line up. Sometimes what you see does not line up. Sometimes what you hear, all these things are just like, wait, what? But if you develop the trust and the knowing that you have, those things will come to be. And so Friday, when I had originally, I'm just going to say this one thing that's extremely important about this whole thing. On Friday, I was sitting in front of my studio, and I was saying, I can see what's going on here, and I can see, how a person has to walk from here to say 10 miles. And between that time between here and the 10 miles is time, but there is no time, everything is here all right now. If you were an eagle in the sky looking down, you have access to see everything. From here to the 10 miles, the eagle can see, right? But we can't see what's at the end of that 10 miles until we get there. And that could be a couple of days if we're walking and stopping or driving or whatever. It could be a couple of minutes or whatever. Who knows? But there's time involved. When you're in the sky looking down, you see everything. time is like, oh, look, that car's going this way. Oh, I hope they don't run into that thing right there, because you could see it. They can't. There's time there. The point of all that is that after I said that, I looked up in the sky, talking about eagles, and there was an eagle flying over my head, circling. And the reason why I was saying this thing about time and looking and seeing is because I felt like an eagle in that moment. I could see this story. I could see what was happening here. And I felt like I had eagle eye at that moment, because I was like, yep, I could see what's going on here. And it was like this supernatural feeling. It was like this really like, whoa, like moment, like, right? And so all that to say, you're experiencing Tamara Zenobia as Tamara Zenobia. Whether this makes sense to you or not, I don't know, but here's how I'm going to end this. To you, the partner in this crime, to you, the one who knows exactly where Cassandra's body is, I know who you are. I see you. I feel you. We want her remains. You know where to take them, and you know how. If you could keep yourself as you are, because I understand your role and I know exactly what's going on, but you could give us those remains and let Cassandra's body be at rest with her family back home. Give us the remains. You know where they are, and you know how to get them and bring them. I know you will see this. I know you will see this, because Brian doesn't have them. He knows where they are. He's not going to tell us. But you do too, because you probably helped him. You know where the remains are. Bring us the remains. Bring us the remains. Thank you so much for watching me today in this quick review of my encounter with the serial killer Brian Stephen Smith. This was a very interesting experience, one of my first in my missing person and paranormal investigation work. But I'm very thankful for being able to do this work, and I hope to have more cases to work with people, and that Cassandra's remains will be found. Yeah. So if you like the video, please like, share, subscribe. Again, thank you for watching, and Hakuna Matata as always.